Hey, it's your man Andrew Wood back with another True to the Game video. I'm going to be doing an inbox response to a question from one of my subscribers, Terrainproject out of Australia. And Terrainproject has asked me specifically what sort of, I guess you would say, real pieces I use for my 3.5 Dungeons & Dragons game in terms of terrain and miniatures, that sort of thing. Well, we don't really use miniatures all the time. A lot of times I like to keep the game in the mind's eye, particularly if they're only against one opponent, particularly a difficult or powerful opponent. It's fairly easy to adjudicate mentally where the characters are because they can position themselves pretty easily. It's pretty easy to keep track of the attacks of opportunity, to reach and sneak attack, and all those sort of aspects that come into the game, ranged attack rolls. Of course, when you're dealing with large numbers of player characters, NPCs that are on their side, monsters that are fighting them, or NPC antagonists, what have you, sometimes you do need to break out the battle map. Two of my players with 3.5 D&D Forgotten Realms game had large numbers of miniatures. I only have a few myself, never been a miniatures guy, never really cared much about them. If people have them, I'll use them. Otherwise, it's something that's really superfluous to me. It's kind of odd because I've spent grotesque amount of money on the games and books and all that sort of thing, but I've never really bought miniatures, battle maps, all that sort of thing. It's just superfluous to me. If they're there, I'll use them. If they're not, it's kind of irrelevant. I like to keep the game going at a fast pace in the mind, and I think the miniature play slows the game down. However, it can add a great degree of ease to understanding precisely where things are in that precision. It can be very appealing to a lot of players. So when there's a big battles, some of my players will bring over big boxes of miniatures, and I'll gather through and pick out the ones I think are best for the monsters, and they'll get the ones for their characters. Otherwise, I'll just throw down dice. I'll grab some of my kids, army men and dinosaurs or whatever, throw those on the board. These things aren't really that big of an issue to me. Dice are good because you can line up a large number of them and then flip them to different numbers to denote, maybe you have 6 skeletons, you use 6 six-sided dice, and you flip them 1 to 6, all of the same color, and then you have another kind of skeleton, so you put like a big white die out there for it, and what have you, so that you can clearly indicate which one's which, so you can keep that order flowing correctly. Because when you have vast numbers of NPC monsters to run, that can become just a bit confusing if you're not really aware of which one is which, because you don't want to give the same guy multiple attacks because he might be hitting one person, whereas another monster doesn't get an attack because they can damage the believability and credibility of the game. So I find that a pretty easy way to handle that. Now, for battle maps, I have 2 of them. I used to use I think it was called Hero Skate. They had this like big cardboard. That was the first thing I ever used back in like 3.0. I never used these in 2nd edition or 1st edition when I ran those AD&D games. But the big cardboard thing, it had like little dungeon rooms and such. I would just throw that out, and it had squares on there which you could use for the 5-foot squares. So that's the first thing I ever used. I don't know whatever happened to that though. But I think it may have got thrown away when I moved. Here is the just generic squares that come in the back of the Dungeon Master's Guide 3.5, and here's the front of it. So it gives you 2 different maps. This one of course has rooms and such, so sometimes I can use it. This is probably only like maybe one or 2 encounters in the entire particular campaign, but it can be used for flair. Of course, you can take them and make them smaller, so it's like, okay, the room's only this large. I actually have a 3rd thing too. I just thought about that. Oh well. Here's another one. I got this at a game store for free. I just happened to be sitting in there. I don't go to game stores very much, but I happened to be sitting there talking to some of the guys. And the manager came by, so I'm tossing this. Anybody want it? And I said, yeah, I'll take that. It has little squares on here. You might actually be able to see them very well. It has a road there and some stuff. I found the road very useful because a lot of times they will be attacked at night, and they'll be along the road, so they can have the campfire set up. I'll put some red dye down to find where the campfire is. Of course, they will often use the campfire to throw monsters in there, or they might be throwing it in themselves. For some extra damage. It has like some little stone areas that you can use or not use. Trees marked out where they are, so they can make rougher terrain. And I think about this. I actually have a 3rd map like that somewhere else, but you get the point. It wasn't even anything to do with D&D. It's some little, I guess, miniature set or something I picked up at a flea market, like a big lot of them. Just something happened to be in there with them, and there were 2 of them, so I just took one, confiscated it to use for Dungeons and Dragons. Another one I have sitting up in the attic, for my son to play, like a little mat, and it has a little squares on it that are perfect for Dungeons and Dragons. It's like a little fortress, so I've used it for sort of like courtyards and like a castle siege or an underground keep of monsters, that sort of thing, with the walls and everything. It also plays it nicely. Also, I use music. Every single game I run, I'll soundtrack things out. I'll use theme music for different NPCs, for the PCs, for different monsters, or certain sorts of soundtracks. I play the Glenn Danzig Black Aria. Certain old school players are, oh no, it's going to be real rough. I used that one last night, and the players, will definitely know it's about to really be on. I use pictures for my key NPCs, and I have a little hookup. I don't know exactly what it's called, a hookup, where I can hook up from my computer to my TV, and what's on my laptop will be on the television. So I can get like a map or something, or a picture, and they can see it on the TV. So like they'll see it, on a much larger screen on the TV while I'm over here on my computer. Just minimize my notes, and I'll flick the TV off when I want to pull up notes and look at things. I keep notes and notepads for the game. But that's the terrain pieces, I guess you would say, that I use. That's my views on miniatures. We do use them periodically, but I'm not the heaviest of those sort of things. I'm not a war gamer. I've played one war game ever. I played BattleTech one time, and I dreadfully hated it. I found out the only way to win BattleTech was to take I only had one guy. It was a really powerful unit. I said, only way I can win this game is to march it directly towards the other people and hope they kill me as quickly as possible. So that's what I did, and I won because the 3 other people had to continue playing, and I got to dip out. And this is way back in the day. I played some Nintendo Epic Wrestling or whatever it was called, old Piranha Man and Starman and all those dudes. So that was, I think it was 15 or 16. That's the only time I ever played with BattleTech, and I really don't. I think the miniatures look cool. I think the painted miniatures look cool. I've seen people paint them, talk to people while they're doing it. But miniature games aren't for me. I don't really love them in role-playing games either. I do see the utilitarian value of them, and that's how I handle it. I really, like I said, like to keep the game running fluid and alive in the mind is where the game really takes place and where I try to keep it. And I find miniatures can really be distracting against that purpose. However, they have that purpose too. So if I think they're necessary, I break them out. If I don't, no, I don't break them out. So that's my views on them. That's the stuff I use. And thank you for the question, Terrainproject. Anyone else that has any questions about what I do in gaming, my views on anything, or any books reviews that you'd like me to do, the books that I have, and I have quite a few of them. And a vast number of PDFs besides that. Feel free to hit me up, and I'll try to get those out to you as quick as possible. So thank you very much for the interest and comment, Terrainproject, and to anyone else that has comments, please feel free to leave those, and thank you for watching.